alternative facts to that. But the point remains.
Alternative facts, 4 of the 5 facts he uttered. Look, alternative facts are not facts. They're falsehoods.
Alternative facts.
Any information that turned out to be so false and fake, out. I think it's a disgrace. And that's something Nazi Germany would have done and did do.
Alternative facts.
Mami Diego gefalter oversha, radio public Irish. Creelu fot Irish agus den canta magúirt Mecha .8 FM. Agus go Jevin níos linne agus ní foidio bhile na heisna electrónathe. Seohé an chláir seachtainiúil idir a haon agus a trí hog an in dhéann muidne an panel, plé, círu agus bíanú ar chúrsaí an tíl mar tá sé do lethir an phobal. An in dhéann mai díreacht na firici, na frí irici, agus an óid na bréga brada a scagu agus a scarú an na héile agus an írin a glán an nochtú. Seo lein mar sin go dtí an chláir seachtainiúil Alternative Facts. Alternative Facts is your Saturday program broadcast live on RS FM at 90.8 FM. It is a program in which we, the panel, bring to your attention, discuss and evaluate national, international, local, national and international news as presented to the public. On the panel today, we have on the right wing, as usual, we have a full panel. Paul is there, he's getting ready to start talking. And in the centre field here, we have Ted. And on the left wing is Misha Eddie Dever. And, Ted will keep the peace anyhow. We have myself and Paul getting tangled in anything during the day. Falter Obliga Shahagas Falcha. Welcome to our Facebook listeners and other people that are listening to us on the electronic facilitators in different places around the world. But before we go any further, we have up there on the controlling the buttons with the Wojciech, and he will can switch it on or off at the touch of a button. So can Wojciech be kind?
The man in ultimate control.
Now, anyhow, we, the panel, myself, Paul and Ted, we will endeavour to put before you our version and assessment of the presented facts. But of course, you, the public, will be the ultimate judges as to whether they are indeed facts, alternative facts, falsehoods, or merely political spin. You are all welcome to get in contact with us at any time to disagree with something said, or to make a point, or to ask a question at any time during the programme. Between now and 4 o'clock, we will be
3 o'clock.
Glad to hear from you. Pardon?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. Oh, yeah.
Not 4.
I was looking for an extra hour for nothing.
You wanted to up your pay rate.
I want to show you, you cannot make a mistake in this program because you will be taken up on it right away. Anyhow, is it all right for me to go on to local news?
Carry on.
Wojciech, can you turn off the right wing and leave the left wing talking? No? Anyhow, the local news. Well, the Easter holidays nearly over. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. And that you did the usual amount of praying like all religious people should do. I believe tomorrow's Divine Mercy Sunday. You can get forgiven for all your sins during the year by going to confessions. So they tell me anyhow. So, but anyhow, the families and the friends and that came home for Easter are possibly now gone back, or mostly gone back. So kind of thing is that they may enjoy the rest of the year wherever they are working as well. Now, here in Ireland, in Sklora, on the 1st of May at 7:30 p.m., Dr. Mary O'Kane, lecturer in psychology and early children education, will be giving a lecture starting at 7:30 p.m. It is on how children and young people should deal with an overdose of anxiety or problems in life. So that should be a very well worthy session for somebody to attend, anybody who is rearing children. That's here now in Iris in Sklora on the 1st of May at 7:30 p.m. Congratulations to Lauren Healy, who came second in the under-15 gymnastics competition recently, thus qualifying for the national competitions in August. Maithfidh Lauren agus go déirí go gearlaat. A míle sa hagan. The Curling National School children had a great day recently, celebrating their action for their Green Flag Day, focusing on the theme of marine environmental and the effects of plastic pollution. Curla School has been working on this for a long time. They've been checking the beaches and picking up plastics and things that were polluting the sea. Plastic, as a matter, can be very harmful to fish life and cause them to get stranded or die off in the ocean. Plastic discriminately dumped by beach users, rock climbers, anglers, seafaring personnel. It should not happen, but it does happen. But people may be of the impression that plastic recycles, but it does not. It just floats around the sea. Some of it comes to shore, but it has a very deteriorating effect on the fish life.
Yeah, it's around for thousands of years.
Yeah. And yeah, congratulations to the Curling National School. They're doing their own part for the clean seas around the Mulla Peninsula. Congratulations to the Mayo B team. Yeah, that's the pool team who won the under-15 championship recently in Navan. They were Charlie Gohan, Paul Neary, Keelan Shevlin, Lorcan Barrett, Dara Gohan, and they were managed by Paul Neary and coached by Jackie Kyle. So well done to the lads, and they're doing very well. Congratulations to the members of the Gisala Boxing Club who did so well in the Porto Cup International competition recently. Daniel McDonough came through some tough fights to reach the top, and with the international under 18 75 kilogram competition, he won that. Got a father buani. The Eris Athletic Club celebrated its 400th park run. That's the park run event that the Eris Athletic Club run ever so often. It's more than annually. It's at different times of the year, but people come to it from varying parts of the country, from far afield and from close at home as well. Some of them finish the course running, some walking and some trotting, but the thing is that they finish the course, and the Eris Athletic Club are promoting it well. Thanks to all who helped in any way. The Kashkuan restaurant and takeaway were very successful recently in the 200-kilometer walk and fundraising event in the memory of their staff member and friend who was tragically killed in a car accident close by to Belmullet, Lauren Padden. All proceeds of the event, which were substantial, went to the Northwest Stop Suicide Prevention Organization. Now, Lagi Mayo County Council have announced that the Belmullet tidal pool and walkway will be closed from 9 a.m. on Monday, 28th of April, that's next Monday, due to maintenance work. It is not clear or sure how long the repair works will take, but the committee will keep us informed. Now, it's an unusual thing that the repair of such a facility as the tidal pool will start coming into the warm weather and to the late spring.
It's a bit difficult to do it in the storms.
Pardon?
It's a bit difficult to do it in the storms. That's the problem.
Well, we get good weather in the autumn as well. And
Yeah, but you can't factor that in and just say, well, we'll have people on standby just in case. So they've got to rely on there being reasonable weather.
Wait till you see what weather you can get in May at times as well. The weather is always there. You can get bad weather at any time during the year.
You can, but
Yeah.
it's more likely to be in the middle of winter than it is in May.
And days are shorter in the winter as well.
And I remember one of the worst storms that I ever experienced was here in June. I think that was around 1996. There was a very bad storm, and there was a high tide. It coincided with the spring tide at the same time. So well, anyhow, we won't argue about it.
Just to say that Chagrani are holding a Safe Pass course on the 6th of May. If anybody's interested in doing it, they can call 097 88935 to book their place. I don't know if there's any places left on it.
Give that number again.
097 88935. And hopefully it's up on our social media pages as well.
Okay. Now, last weekend we had a good weekend here with the tractor run. Did you?
I didn't partake.
And it was a vintage tractor, and then kind of they were from.
Well, I think
mostly they were from outside there. They were from the Midland counties. A lot of them.
it was vintage and new. I think
Vintage and new, but it was they left here Belmullet, travelled down to the bottom end of the peninsula and back around again. And I think it was a lovely event. And Ed 2 was in favour of the Northwest Stop Suicide Prevention organisation, and I was delighted to see some Ferguson 20s and something like that. Not only that, but I saw a few Honda 50s as well.
Oh yeah,
which were very popular.
Nifty 50s.
Many years ago, Honda 50. Yeah, there's some kind of a song about the Honda 50. Do you know it, Paul?
I have heard it once or twice, yes.
Do you want to sing it for us?
No, I wouldn't inflict that upon anybody.
Would you not? No. All right, we'll let you go this time. How about the lotto?
Didn't get a ticket.
Oh, well, what's the use in talking? We couldn't get him to win. Now we can't get him to buy a ticket. And yeah, the Gaeltacht Irish Lotto, that's one of the new lottos in town. The jackpot is at 19,300, but there were no winners either. There was a £50 winner, was Laura Doherty of Pullatomish, a €25. Did I say pound? £50.
I presume it's euros.
Yeah, correction, €50. And the €25 winner was Bridgie Hine in Carrowhine, or Carrownaghla. She was Carrowhine. She is now living in Carrownaghla. Numbers drawn were 12, 18, and 26. Now, the under 14 teams start the Tanog League this week against Ballina. That's the hurling. They're promoting hurling and football in the underage people, especially hurling. And the clubs join forces with Kilchena and Ballycroy to deliver hurling and football Easter camp training. And some teams will be going to Croke Park on the 24th of June. Some underage teams will be playing at Croke Park. So that is something for them to look forward to, because a lot of people, especially youngsters in GAA circles, the one of the things that they look forward to is playing at Croke Park. The Kiltane GAA Lotto, the jackpot 5,400 is only starting off now. There were no winners. The €50 winners were Brian Cosgrove of Roy and Jay Ducey. The €25 winners was Amanda Healy of Ballinaboy and Michael Burke of Portacloy. And the online winner was the €50 Peter McDonough, Kisala, and the €25 winner was Samantha Linsky, Telford. Now, bingo will continue in the Bangor Hall every Thursday at 8 p.m. The jackpot is €800 on 51 calls or less. Kilcommon Lotto. This is the one Paul used to do, but he
failed to get a ticket.
Yeah, failed to get a ticket. We'll we'll let him go over the caution this time. Anyhow, the jackpot is 10,400, no winners. Numbers drawn were 6, 12, 16, and 20. I bet they were the 4 numbers you used to have.
No, I saved myself a couple of bob there.
No, all right. So and the €100 winner was Thomas Healy, Glencullen. And offline winner, €30, went to Tara Gallagher, Gotmelia. And the second one went to Monica Henry Bangor. The online €30 winner was Philomena Moran, Glenamoy, and the second €30 winner was Siobhan Philbin, Rossport. Kilcommon GA clothing collection took place last Wednesday on the 24th of April. So if you had any old clothes you wanted to get rid of, you're a bit late now because it's already gone through. Belmullet ladies football team and the senior Belmullet team have qualified for the Comórtas Gaeltacht, Pilna Gaeltacht, which will be run this year in Rathcarn, County Meath next May. So Belmullet are in the competition. And that's about it for now.
Well, there's one more.
One more.
Eris Workability are going to be hosting a disability awareness workshop, or it's scheduled, for staff and employers in Belmullet. It's going to be on the 1st of May, which is next week, starting at 10 and finishing at 2 p.m. It's free for employers, and as they say, it's an ideal way in which you can start to improve accessibility and create a more inclusive environment in your workplace for staff and for customers. And anybody who wants more information or to book a place, if they call Siobhan on 087 499 6605. And I think that's already up on the social
media. Yeah.
So that's.
I see. Go ahead.
No,
I see him on Timmy Mallet. Is that what you call him?
Yeah.
He's still running or cycling around the country.
Yes, he's down in
He
Clare.
must be on a very long cycle. Where is he based? In England?
England, yeah.
Yes.
He's I think he's in Clare now. But
he's
he
basically going all. He did a
He's
couple
gonna-
of years ago. We went all the way around Britain, stopping and painting and
yeah,
generally chatting and
And chatting.
enjoying himself.
He's a good man for chatting.
He is. He got some good publicity for the area. I got a few phone calls from people, that saw his website and admired the hair. Mind you, his paintings are not cheap. There's one there of Blacksod Lighthouse, which is I think 650 sterling.
6 sterling.
Yeah,
Oh.
so it's
He must be. He must consider himself a good painter. So.
Well, he'd be one of these celebrity painters, I suppose. Although, mind you, the paintings I've seen of his, they're nice enough. At least you recognise the places in them.
What kind of prices? There'll be arts exhibitions here in Arizona Explorer from time to
Oh,
time.
they're up on that.
Well,
those
they're
prices.
up on the wall, but some of them go good prices as
Oh
well.
yeah.
don't they?
Yeah.
Because some of them can be quite good, even though they are amateur painters.
Oh yes.
Lots of them are professional painters.
Yeah.
When they have the
Actually,
exhibitions here.
In fairness to the classes here downstairs for art, mainly women. There's a few, but I think Joe Murray teaches them down there. But I've seen some beautiful work down there.
Oh yeah, I remember watching their exhibitions down there, and kind of there was some very good work. Now
Yeah.
I'm no judge on it, but I did like what I
Yes,
saw.
yeah.
And
Quite good.
There'll be an exhibition now. The classes are finished, I think, for the summer now, and I think they will have an exhibition soon again here in
Yeah,
Arizona,
yeah.
Florida.
No, they're very good. Some of them are excellent, and are credit to the artists.
Yeah.
including, I think, a certain Mrs. Dever. I think she
Never heard of her.
Yeah.
Never heard of her. Don't know anything about her.
Well, she's not sharing the money with you, know.
That's news to him.
All she does is ask for money.
Oh, well, I think we'll stop now in case you get into trouble, Eddie.
Well, sure, you've already
You know-
led me into it now.
You know the old motto, when in a hole, stop digging.
So
I'll say I won't say any more. No, like you say, I stopped again.
Yeah.
So if we've got no more local news, shall we just have a little bit of music and then we can go on to things that have been happening around the country,
Yes.
including something from Donegal.
Where's that? Actually, we're not in the
In
area. now.
1824, the town of Belmullet opened its doors. William H. Carter owned the land and he thought the town here should be planned. He hired a man called Patrick Knight who drew up the plans for the site. The Castlebar Road helped it to thrive and soon the strangers began to arrive. To the square, the dock, the canal and the quay, between two bays surrounded by sea. The land was low on Carter's site, but oh what a town was planned by night. Many a visitor travelled the miles, the Royal Hotel kept them in style. J.M. Singh, G.B. Shaw and Lloyd George all gazed in awe. Jack B. Yeats and Maud Gonne, John McCormack sang us a song. De Valera, sure he came too, and Percy French admired the view. Of the square, the dock, the canal and the quay, between two bays surrounded by sea. The land was low on Carter's site, but oh what a town was planned by night. The SS Tartar steamed its way from Pickle Point to Sligo Bay, transporting cargo and people each way, some who would never return to stay. Many have left for a faraway shore, oh Bogo Joe, not easiest door, but the capital town of Erris their home, no matter where they did wander or roam. From the square, the dock, the canal and the quay, between two bays surrounded by sea. The land was low on Carter's site, but oh what a town was planned by night. Daughters and sons have all met their mark. Great Willie Joe rose high in Crow Park. She paid Dever, ran like the wind, and Annie Maria comes round the bend. They say it's the people that make a place, an act of kindness, a smiling face. We're blessed to know we have all that. Now round the corner comes Donald the Cat. To the square, the dock, the canal and the quay, between two bays surrounded by sea. The land was low on Carter's site, but oh what a town was planned by night. Bale on Wirra, by your pure, by your just not break on the way, oh, by your crush gladly lay seal guns throw, by a man or Grieger Joe. The town of Belmullet continues to grow, our tidy town in County Mayo, a town by the shore where the pace is slow, a town we cherish forevermore. And the square, the dock, the canal and the quay, between two bays surrounded by sea. The land was low on Carter's site, but oh what a town was planned by night. The town of the barony for all sides, who come to trade by road or tide. The side below, the side behind, the side above, you'll all there find. We now celebrate 200 years, a town that's known laughter and tears, but the people so friendly set it apart. Here's to Belmullet, the pride of our heart. The square, the dock, the canal and the quay, between two bays surrounded by sea. The land was low on Carter's site, oh what a town was planned by night. The square, the dock, the canal and the quay, between two bays surrounded by sea. The land was low on Carter's site, but oh what a town was planned by night.
welcome back to Alternative Facts here on Eris FM, on 90.8 FM, and on various social media platforms and YouTube and God knows what. That was Red Connolly with Belmullet Town, which he wrote himself for the bicentennial last year.
Very good, very good.
Mentioning lots of people in local celebrities, including your daughter there, Eddie. Got a mention?
Who's she?
Another person who he's never heard of in the Devereux family. Well, we've dealt with local
And
news.
you know, it's nice to see local people come making up new songs, and even though they use the old tunes of long ago, it's lovely to hear them.
It is. It's
Yeah,
going back to the old bardic days.
Old bardic days, yeah. The Bard of Curla, the Bard of Belmullet.
I'm sure Red would like to be known as the Bard.
The Bard of Armagh. But no, the last, just on the local, the last week and during the holidays, there was unfortunately the weather wasn't playing ball, but to me it seemed that we had an awful big influx of tourists
There was an awful lot.
in the area.
Well, there is a lot
for
of
the
people,
Easter
yeah,
period.
Kenny, as well.
For the time of year, I not that I'm in town that much, but another thing that came up there during the week, or towards the end of the week, was this some sort of a survey they did, and apparently Mayo is about number 3 in the holiday homes in the country. We've a
You
huge
mean
amount.
supplying holiday homes?
Yeah, and this B&B, the what do you call it, B&B?
Airbnb and all that.
Airbnb.
Yes.
We're I think number 3. Dublin, Galway, and Mayo are very
Which-
high on the list.
Which is a bit of an issue because the new legislation that's going through Parliament at the moment with regards to properties being taken off the rental market and put into the holiday rental market is only going to affect places with more than 10,000 people. So it's not going to affect Belmullet. There's going to be no restrictions, as far as I can see, on people using their properties for Airbnb, rather than letting them out on a permanent basis to reduce the number of people who are
homeless.
sofa surfing at the moment.
There's a lot of holiday homes. There's a good few holiday homes in Erskine, and they kept like that, and they can be rented out now and again by the people living away from home. But they still want them available whenever they come home themselves. So they can't let them out on a full-time basis.
Yeah, but there are
And they're very reasonable, I believe, to rent them for maybe a weekend or a week.
But there are more and more people buying properties in the area to rent out, and rather than rent them out on a permanent basis, they are renting them out
That
because-
suits them.
as not for any use for their family, but as a business concern. And you can understand why, because if you rent your property out for a week through one of these holiday let companies, you have all the details and you have the bank account and the credit card details of whoever you're renting out. So if there is any damage, you can get paid for it. And you only need to rent out for about 3 months of the year, and you're actually going to be making more than the long-term lets are going to produce anyway. And the other thing is that if you have a holiday let, you can offset any maintenance against tax, whereas if you let out on a long-term basis, that money, any refurbishment,
You'll be charged
it
tax.
gets written off.
How much does the Wild Atlantic Way contribute to tourism here, do you think?
I think it's been
Oh,
a
I'd
great,
say-
great.
A lot, I would say.
It's been a great boon to the area, but possibly too much of a boon, as other areas in the world are finding out. The more you appease the holiday makers, the less and less there is for
Yeah, and
the locals.
And camper vans are getting popular as well along the Wild Atlantic Way.
There's not enough provision for people with camper vans or for campers in the area. That is one thing that we're still sadly lacking in.
It is, but camper vans, I remember reading, they don't really bring a lot of money into the area.
Because everybody goes to Tesco's or
before they arrive, fully loaded with grub. The only thing they buy is milk.
Where do you think some people of the area buy their stuff as well? The same places.
Yeah, but if you're driving through one of the large towns, you'll pick up stuff on the way. Whereas,
I would you do, yeah.
Well, you wouldn't do the 100-mile round trip to go to Castlebar just for a shop.
Unfortunately, that's the trend.
Well,
I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we had 3 shops in Blacksod. There's none now.
None, no.
We had various shops on the way then between Blacksod and Belmullet.
Yeah, there was
all gone. There's
one in Clogher.
There's one now in Binghamstown, and that's it.
That's it, yeah. How long will that one last?
This is it. We don't know, but even Belmullet itself, you'll remember when you came here, the whole main street was all shops.
All were all shops.
No, we've and pubs also. They went the same way.
There were a lot of pubs too.
There was 22 pubs.
22 pubs, yeah.
Now there's 5, I think, something like that. So
things change.
Things change. But
I don't think people can afford to drink anymore.
Well, I wonder when you were saying the Airbnb there. I can understand how they make so much money because I have heard some of the prices quoted for some of these for a week in the high season, and it's over £2,000.
Oh, you get
for a week?
Yes,
that's good money.
It's bloody right. It is.
If you were letting that on a long-term let, that's 2 months' rent.
Yeah. That's
to somebody who needs to live in the area.
That's a few years ago.
How much if you wanted to rent a house, say a 3-bedroom house now full time, what would you pay for it?
I don't know in this area. I don't know. But
1,000?
I think you'd be looking towards 1,000. Yes.
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, you'd be talking over 2,000 in the cities. You'd be talking 2,200 or
specifically in this area.
I think to live in Dublin.
There's very few can.
I couldn't afford it now.
I couldn't afford it, and I
wouldn't want to.
More important,
can scale over.
But that's another story. But it's for young people now. Getting married and I was listening to a program the other day on the radio too about one of the big fears some of the parties have now is that pensioners now are going to not be able to afford to live after they retire.
Well, there's more and more pensioners not being able to own their own property. Yes. So when they hit 65,
the only thing that will stand out for pensioners nowadays is that when they reach the pension, most of them will have had their own homes paid
but
for.
More and more are finding it impossible to buy, and that demographic is coming through, and very soon they're going to be out of the jobs market on the pensions market, and basically there's not enough in the kitty.
There are a lot of jobs that people 65 and over could very well manage. But they have to retire at 65.
Well, is it not 66 now? You have an option to go on to 66. But even so, even if you do go to 66, it's still, if you're not one of the lucky ones, like which I think we are, that we had careers all our lives and we have pensions and we own our own homes. But for someone now, say, by the time they can afford to get married and get a house, they're well on. There are an awful lot of people living with their parents now.
Oh yeah, well, the kind in
in the
the
cities.
cities
especially.
and towns, the big
Yeah.
towns there. And kind of, I don't know, Dublin has gone crackers altogether.
It's going to be a big problem. It is a big problem, but it's
I
going to get
remember
bigger.
now, I remember living in Dublin in the mid-50s. And you could buy a 3-bedroom house in Rialto for £3,000.
And how much was
No.
your wages?
A niece of mine bought a house there recently in the same area, cost her 600,000.
But how much were your wages in the 50s?
£5 or £6.
As opposed to 500 or 600 now. So
And I'm not comparing wages. I'm just talking about the way money has lost its value. And it has
Yeah.
lost its value. I mean, to go from 3,000 to 600,000 in what?
Well, it's one of the great mysteries of life to me is why all currencies cannot just maintain their value, not go up or go down.
Well, you had to credit politicians with that, haven't you?
Well,
Or
is it-
business people,
well,
or
money
Trumps.
people, banks, I think. Well, Mr. Trump would be into it now too. But would it not solve a lot of our problems?
it would, but
It would create
every-
problems for the super rich.
If currency could
Well,
held its
that's
hold-
and I'm crying because
If currency just held its value and exchange rates remain the same, to take a lot of the
the sting.
out of it. But no doubt, some.
But all
economists will tell me
politicians
that
want,
doesn't work.
all politicians are looking to basically have at least a 2%, or around the world, 2% on GDP.
Yeah.
They reckon just to break even. Well, you're right. That would break the business model if we just stayed as we are.
Yeah.
But that would mean that no country is changing. It would probably lead to a certain amount of, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it works nicely for us in the EEC since we went to the euro. The problems now going to Germany or anywhere in the continent, EEC member, we don't have to worry about exchange rates or
no, the one
I've
the
found
one
that
euro-
one of the best things. One of the best things
Yeah.
of the EEC was
the one currency that is very helpful.
yeah, very helpful, and it cuts out all the exchange rate. Mind you, the at the time Britain was still part of the EEC, and the financial part of London were very, very opposed to it because obviously they've lost a lot of money on it.
I think it's a matter of time until they come back into it.
Yeah, but you still have they were never part of they were never in the euro.
No, they were never in the euro.
But the banks didn't like it because they make money on
the exchange rate.
and the exchange rate. I remember at the time we were internet. Some newspaper guy, he left Dublin with 100 punts, and he just went to 3 or 4 countries, and he kept changing it, and he had nothing left, and he had bought nothing. He did it as
Just
an example of by
yeah.
just changing money.
Well, I remember when the punt broke from parity with sterling, and almost immediately it sank by, I think, 20%. So you could get.
But I don't ever remember it having parity with sterling. The
It was
pound.
always parity.
There was always a few pence in the difference.
Yeah, but I think that was shops making a few bob.
Yeah,
But
I think so.
there was parity.
There was
what's the-
parity.
when
There
was
was,
that?
yeah,
It was
yeah.
the two were tied together, and then
The two we were tied in some way to the British
And
pound.
and
we-
the Scottish
And I
pound
thi-
was different again.
no,
wasn't
it never was. But yet again, shopkeepers used to refuse to. They would only give you 19 and 6 in the pound for a Scottish pound note because
Yeah.
well, I remember parts of England where they wouldn't even accept the Scottish pound. They They wouldn't take it at
Yeah.
all.
But I remember when the punt broke free from Stirling, I came to go to the races and got the overnight ferry. Came into Dunleary, so that shows how long ago it was, and got into town, and then went down to the Quays for. And it was and it was my
Free
round. And
breakfast. It had to be
Yeah.
lemonade. Couldn't be anything else.
I
Early houses down there were.
Hmm?
There was early houses down the docks.
legally, yes,
Legally, yeah.
they were allowed to open early to
7 o'clock
yes
In
in the morning.
for the night shift to go and have a drink. So we went in, and I'd only got sterling in my pocket, and the barman said, "That's no problem." And he picked up his copy of the Irish Times and he turned to the financial page,
Yeah.
and I gave him £20, and he gave me the drinks and £21 something change.
How do you manage that? You
Because
mean
I paid in
You
sterling
got
and
more
got,
change than you handed over.
yes, I paid in sterling, but got the money back in Irish pounds.
pounds,
He didn't charge me any commission, which I thought was brilliant.
Yeah.
Was.
But that's
Well,
going back to, I think, the early 80s. Or
it depends on the profit he had on the drink.
But back in our back to tourism, I had been down in Galway there in the Iron Islands some 3 weeks ago or so, and the word on the street was that bookings were down this year, and one of the reasons was that all the accommodation in Galway had been booked out.
Galway
hotels.
is busy at the moment, isn't
The,
it?
the
What's
tourists
on?
couldn't get into Galway, couldn't stay overnight because they were booked out, and this was knocking on to the ferry problem. But they were still getting tourists. Apparently, we're getting a huge influx of Canadians now.
yeah, because they don't want to go to the
They want to go to the
States.
States, so they're coming here.
And the other
and
thing
Europe.
is that the Americans, as the dollar is creeping down, if it continues to creep down, they will find Ireland even more expensive than they already
Yes,
complain
yeah,
it is.
Yeah. And the dollar has gone down quite a bit now in the last.
I don't know. There was something that happened a couple of months ago, and I don't know. Ever since then, the dollar has been nosediving.
Yeah,
Can't remember what it
to
was.
do with an election, no.
I can't remember. There's something.
Yeah.
He's trying to blame poor Trump for the dollar going down.
Well, I don't think he's
Well,
helped it.
He's not helping the situation, but we possibly will come back to that later on.
Yes.
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, this has got us quite a long way off the housing crisis, which
Yeah,
is basically what we were talking about.
Well, another thing that's come up in the national thing in the last few days again is this alternative power, the green power, and we're saying there, we get a lot of disinformation on
By alternative
Facebook.
power, what do you mean by alternative power?
green power, wind
Green
power,
wind power,
solar
solar
power,
panels.
solar power, all things. And we have targets that we have to hit by 2030 and
Yes.
2050.
And we're not going to hit them,
And we're not going to hit them. We're going to miss them by miles.
even though we're putting huge amounts of windmills in.
Yeah, we're not going to.
We're not doing it fast enough.
not doing it fast enough. And
And more importantly, we're not reducing the outputs from
no,
the.
and the nonsense that's going on, and this is what I'm coming to, is they're talking about, we're going to be exporting power to Europe and all this from these offshore wind projects. Well, during the week, the Scared Rock one has been totally cancelled. They've pulled out. The people that are there say that storm that came there
It was a wake-up
destroyed
call.
anything in the wake of the storm. And they also said that the seabed, the geographical and the things are not right. So that's one gone. And they keep on about this anchored wind farms way out of sight, which is total bunkum. Anyone that knows the sea knows that it's impossible. And I even see in today's letters in the Irish Times, someone has a letter in saying, "Oh, thank God, like the Skerry Rocks thing was cancelled, it had ruined the site, and that this wave energy, anchored
Wave energy has gone off the radar completely,
gone.
hasn't it?
And this wind, anchored wind energy, that should also be off the scale, off the thing, because it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And but yet you have, and finally, I to my delight, the Institute of Engineers in Ireland have come out the other day and said that this is pie in the sky. What are they talking about? It's not going to come around.
But do you think possibly that we're overreacting to climate change?
I don't know. I don't think we're overreacting. I don't think so.
What kind of the climate change is going to come regardless of what anything we do or do not do. It's going to happen.
Oh, there'll be a certain amount, but I mean, we can slow it down. Maybe it's too late now, but we can.
What's the difference between a cow passing wind and a Boeing 707 up there in issuing carbon?
There's an awful lot more cars than there are 747s.
Yes.
Oh.
And the Chinese can't send back the cows, which we will come to later as well. But it's there's enough places in the country for to erect wind power without having to go to this.
Go to the sea.
There's another huge one about to start out in Bangor. I mean, the groundwork's already well underway.
And that,
there was talk about re-wetting a bog out there as well.
Well, they can do both.
I think that's taking things a bit too far.
I don't think so. I mean, we're not going to see it probably, but our families are going to be paying huge fines.
What we should be concentrating on now, the human race. I mean, not just we as
not just
it's not going to happen in our lifetime. But how are we going to get over the climate change when it does happen? How the human race are going to survive it? That's what we should be concentrating on now, rather than trying.
I think at the moment it's possibly a bit of a toss of the coin as to whether we are.
Yeah, but I mean that's what we need to be doing. Correct. I agree with you 100%, and that's why we need this.
Any effort of reducing carbon should be done on a global scale, not just a country.
But it is being done on a global
Ireland,
scale,
like a few coasts in Ireland.
But
if nobody makes the first move, nobody will make the first move.
But who should make the first move? The ones who mostly produce the carbon.
Well,
not
China. China are building more renewable energy plants than I think the rest of the world combined.
They're solar panels.
Solar panels and wind.
And
they
hydro.
Tidal.
Hydro.
Oh, hydro. Well, hydro, I believe, is one of the good answers
it is.
We should be
it's one
embracing.
It's one of the expensive ones, but it's good in the long term.
And
Norway is a perfect example. Norway are 100% hydro.
Yeah, and the sooner we can get
but they have
the Boeing 707 flying on hydrogen, the better.
Anyway, talking about the Boglands, we have a special guest. Well, we have 3 special guests outside who are going to be coming and talking about a film that's going to premiere here on Mayo Day, which is the 3rd of May, which is next Saturday. So we'll take a little bit of music and we'll get them into the studio and we can start basically finding out what it's all about.
You start digging our turf. Did you bring your slan with you?
Last night as I lay dreaming of pleasant days gone by, my mind be bent on rambling, to Ireland I did fly. I stepped on board a vision and followed with the wind, and next I came to anchor at the cross at Spencel Hill. Been on the 23rd of June, the day before the fair, when Ireland's sons and daughters in crowds assembled there. The young, the old, the brave and the bold, their duties to fulfill at the parish church near Clooney, a mile from Spencel Hill. I went to see my neighbors, to see what they might say. The old ones were all dead and gone, and the young ones turning grey. I met with Taylor quickly, he's as bold as ever still. Oh, he used to make my bridges when I lived in Spencel Hill. I paid a flying visit to my first and only love. She's as white as any lily and as gentle as a dove. She threw her arms around me, saying, "Johnny, I love you still." Oh, she's yet the farmer's daughter and the pride of Spencel Hill. I dreamt I knelt and kissed her, as in the days of yore. Oh, Johnny, you're only joy.
Hello, welcome back to Alternative Facts here on Eris FM, on 90.8 FM, and on various social media. That was Spencel Hill, very interesting version by Bridget McMahon, who I know absolutely nothing about. Well, we have got three guests in the studio here. They're here to talk about a new film that they've done called Mix's Bog, which is a documentary about cutting turf. I'll let them talk about it. It's going to be premiered, as I said, on Saturday the 3rd of May, which is Mayo Day, here in Irish Innisglora. And I'll hand over, I think,
What,
to...
what time is it?
It's
is it
8
on?
o'clock.
8 o'clock.
I'll hand over to Sean Harrington, who I think most people in the area know about and have heard speaking at great length on various subjects. So Sean is the man who I'll get him to introduce the other people, including the famous Mixie of the Mixie's Bog.
Thanks, Paul, and thanks for the big intro there. I appreciate it. So, yeah, I'm involved with the actual music for the documentary myself. And basically, I suppose we can talk about that later because I don't want to put the cart before the horse. But the documentary is all about turf cutting by hand. And Mixie and Aidan, who are beside me here, Mixie is the turf cutter, Aidan is the filmmaker. And the boys will explain their aspect of it when we get to that. You know, from my perspective, they just asked me, Aidan would have asked me, maybe this was around about COVID time, to be quite honest. All of this was initially being sort of mooted, you know, and the initial sort of intent of the documentary would have been that it'll be just for, we'll say, family consumption, so that the children and grandchildren could kind of see what their forebears used to get up to in the bog, like, you know,
how it was done
cutting by hand.
in the bad old days.
Yeah, exactly, the bad old days. Yeah, that's what it was. So Aidan asked me, would I sort of supply a few tunes, and the concept was it'd be very spare and very sparse, just one instrument, the accordion, with no accompaniment. You know, so that was kind of the way it was going initially, and which that's what we've done. That's the main. We said that's the main soundtrack of the thing. I played a few tunes there, here and there, like, you know. But then I kind of was thinking about it, and I ended up writing a song as well, which we're going to kind of play right at the end as the credits are running, you know. And as it happens, some people will know I belong to a band called Tradlib. We've kind of decided to double down on the double usage for the song. So we're going to launch that as our new single as well. So that's going to be available on Spotify and all the usual outlets from Mayo Day onwards. So that's the plug for the band. So if you want
military plug.
Yeah, well, yeah, it has to be done. But yeah, if you want to, I mean, you know, the lads, I don't want to kind of invade their territory, so to speak. And my only remit was that I was involved with the music, but obviously I've been very closely associated with Aidan, particularly in the production of the thing. But I'm sure Aidan would be interested now in telling you exactly how the idea came about. And of course, Mixie, the man who actually did the work, the main body of the work in the bog itself, will want to give his version of events as well. So I might tell you later.
Slightly reticent about that.
I might tell you later how the song came about, but that's another story. So if we get time, we'll maybe discuss that after. I'd like to hand over to the boys now, anyway, if that's okay.
Well, so I am Aidan anyway. I'm Mixie's brother, actually.
Right.
Younger brother, just to clarify them small details. But this came out, I suppose, a few years back. After call to Mixie using the bog, he was having to scrawl the bog that day and chatting away anyway. And he said, "This is me last year cutting turf." But he says that's many times since. He was even cutting last week, so that's kind of twin. So I said at the time, I better get a bit of video of you doing it. So I was videoing away anyway, and I says, "You might explain what you're doing, because in 50 years' time, this video will be taken out of a box in the attic, put on, and don't have a clue what you're doing, what you're at, where you are, or even who you are. So you might say what you're doing." So after a bit of coaxing anyway, I gave him a mic and he faced the camera, and he said, What'll I say? I remember that. So I was thinking for a bit. I said, well, there's only two of us here in the bog. There's no one around. But imagine you have a grandkid here or your great-grandchildren here, and they're saying, what are you at? And as you know, kids ask plenty of questions like, what are you doing? Why? Plenty of whys.
It's always why.
Always why.
Why and how. Yeah.
So that's the story that Mixie tells. Everybody has a story in life, and that's the story on Mixie's bog. The passion and grow he has for the bog, that's what comes through on the video. And that's what it's all about. The video is about telling stories, not about kind of a Hollywood production or anything like that. It's just telling the story of what Mixie's done for the last 60 odd years. And
hopefully we'll continue to do for a little while longer.
It was last year, he said.
Again.
You need to finish.
Yeah.
Finishing. I know there must be something to it when it takes about, was it 45 minutes to show this video? So he must be saying a lot of talk.
He is. I'd actually more than that. I'd hours and hours of footage, but I cut it down to 45 minutes for kind of public viewing, because again, there's a lot of family stuff, a lot of emotional stuff, like you know, everybody get hit hard in life, and we weren't out of that woods. So
Well, it took
Well, there was one thing I picked up on Sean's introduction there. He said what Mixie used to do. You mean it doesn't happen anymore? Turf cutting in areas.
yeah, it's very few cutting it by hand now.
Very
Mick-
few,
Mick-
but
Mick-
it's still,
But what's
goes
it's
on.
still going on, Eddie, because literally we were, as I mentioned there, I don't want to keep plugging the song, that wouldn't be fair, but we actually went up to the bog, myself and Des, my son, you know, who's in the back, to make a video for the song, you know. And we have a shot where I'm the busy one singing, and this man is cutting turf behind me, like, you know. It's a great shot, like, you know. So it looks absolutely great. But it's kind of
it's an easier job than cutting turf. Isn't
oh, by far, yeah. But I was just going to say, like, in terms of the footage that Aidan took, and he took like maybe quite a few hours of footage over 3 or 4 seasons, I'd imagine, you know. But what Aidan did the other day was, and I should be letting him explain this as well, we just took a quick clip, or he did rather, out of what Aidan did. He put a GoPro on the turf spade, which was probably never done in the history of mankind.
What a what?
GoPro, you know, the camera that
Oh yeah,
the close range camera, you know. He put one of them on the handle of the spade, and Mixie was cutting away, and he has a bit of footage of that, and he put it up on TikTok, and 250,000 views it got in the space of about 24 hours. So that just gives you some sort of a measure. That gives you a measure of the kind of interest there is.
Not quite retirement money, but
yeah. No. But it wasn't amazing. Like, literally, we couldn't believe we were watching it. It went up to 7,000. We said, "This is great. Nobody ever got anything like this before." Next time it's gone 35, and it just went absolutely ballistic.
That was amazing.
It was amazing, and it just goes to show the kind of, we'd say, interest there is in this. It's a dying art, it's a dying tradition, and people are kind of clinging on to it, and they're interested in seeing it being done. And the way that this was done specifically, like, it was very, very nice to watch. You know,
it's kind of heritage, wouldn't it?
Heritage,
This bog,
absolutely.
Mixie, was this your people's bog? Had your
no,
Father.
no,
been cutting it before, you know?
no. My brother had that bog. This was the bog I bought in
Right.
'97, I think. You know.
Yeah, but I mean, your father would have
Oh,
cut a similar one.
he showed me how to cut it.
Yeah.
Taught me how to cut it. Like.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be 58, 59 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's reflected in the, you know, we were saying like 45 minutes. It seems a lot for a very specific topic, but it's not really, because Mixie is such a good, we'd say, raconteur, a great storyteller, and a great man to kind of take you into the actual essence of what's going on in the bog, like, you know. And no, the 45 minutes goes by fairly quickly. I can vouch for that.
I say it does, yeah.
You're marking it and scoring it and cutting it and saving it. It took 4 years, not 45.
Those 4 years of my life.
Four different seasons, yeah.
There's a bit of editing because there's a lot of footage, and Mixie was doing talking. So it's unusual that he's also doing the narrating as well as the work. There's no other voice on that video, only Mixie's. Normally on one of those kind of videos, you'd have someone describing someone else's work. He's describing his own work. Because he's telling his own, say, people to come that this is what I'm doing. This is my story. So that's what I put together. Hours, if not days, of footage. So editing took a long time. And then to say, well, just maybe people might be interested in this outside of the family. So that took out a lot of the emotional stuff and family stuff.
yes, the private stuff.
Yeah, so we just put it into a kind of a 45-minute, but it's still telling the story. It's still like done from the heart. It's not done like from a commercial or a kind of how would you put it, a kind of commercial, any reason or any kind of, oh, that looks good or that looks good. This is telling a story. That's what it's about. Telling the story of Mixie and his life in the bog.
So
that's what comes through, I think.
Was there much persuasion needed to change it from just a little thing for the family to something that you're prepared to share with anything? I mean, was there much arm twisting by Sean?
I had to twist him a fair bit now. Even to come here today, he's not a man for the camera.
Good job, you're his brother.
It was actually the opposite for me, Paul, because I didn't get on board really until pretty much the concept was in place, and Aidan was thinking of running with the documentary, and he kind of done sort of we'll say a rough edit or whatever, and then he kind of asked me would I play the few tunes, like, you know. So I didn't actually have to persuade the lads to kind of, to go the next stage with the documentary, because there was actually
That decision had already been
it was
made.
on the way, and they kind of just wanted me to kind of supply the bit of music in the background. So I was delighted to do that, but then, as I say, the song emerged afterwards, and it's kind of it sort of finishes the thing off on a literally on a high note, because with the song is the last thing we hear as the credits are going up, so we think it's a nice little package. So hopefully a lot of people want to come in and have a look and maybe see what they think of it.
Yes, it's for people that want to see it. It's not like about numbers, or it's a project that I like doing. I
Yes.
like editing and that sort of thing. I'm not a professional or even close to it. So just a hobby I'd be doing on and off from the VHS days. And this is kind of just footage I had there on a hard drive, and put bits together that everybody's okay with, and Mixie's talking through it, and through the whole package, we'll say. So that's why it's his voice, his bog, it's Mixie's bog, what he enjoys doing. I don't know if he enjoys doing it, but it goes across that way.
Let him tell us about
Not really. I like it, but I wouldn't say that I look
You
forward
never
to
know.
it.
You could have queues coming, because there's a friend of mine down in the Aran Islands in Sheer, and he's built stone walls. And there some years ago, T.G. Cahir made a film of him, Pádraig Pole building the stone walls. And the amount of people that are going into Ireland since, just to see him
Yeah.
doing that, it's unbelievable.
Kind art too.
And,
Of course, yeah. And
that was all due to just one show on
exposure, yeah.
TV.
I think the thing about this thing is this particular movie is that it's completely comprehensive from start to finish. Now, without giving away any spoilers or anything like that, the first thing you see is actually Mixie arriving on the bog with his tools ready to start cutting. It starts from the very start, literally the bog road, and he rides in the bog, and it goes all the way out to the end product being used in the house. So it's within those two parameters, then you have all the different aspects of the turf cutting. It's the tradition we have around here. There are different types of cutting. Some people cut what they call it face cutting, I think it's called, where they hold the turf spade horizontally and they cut in towards the bank. We don't do that around here. It's always underneath.
They do that in Galway.
Galway, do they? Yeah.
Yeah.
And awfully and
There's a different
Kerry.
system, completely different system in Donegal.
Is there again
Where I
different?
come from, yeah, it's
Yeah.
a different system, yeah. And
Would that be?
it's a two-man job rather than a
Yeah,
one-man
yeah.
job.
I was going to say a man cutting the sod, another man taking it away immediately. Yeah.
Curtis Pole.
Yeah.
Curtis Pole, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And, where they go 3 sods deep,
Yeah.
there'll be a third man.
Right.
Extracting,
Yeah.
throwing it further.
Funny enough, I was talking to
further.
Connemara about turf cutting the other day, and what he described as ag ban chasanocht.
It's not,
That's enough
yeah,
at the chest,
yeah.
that's the horizontal cutting, but we don't have that around here. We put our back into it, like.
Well, the Slane and Donegal,
anyway.
it had, what do you call the cross hand, the top of a spade?
Oh, I know what you
We
mean.
call it in Dorn.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
Durn was the thing on the side.
You-
other side.
The wing in English.
No, the two hands on the side.
Oh, yeah, that was what
They were the Durnings.
what they called that.
now we call
I know the
it-
fella on the top of the only one I saw that was in Donegal actually, where you cut on the Slane, but they're like a sheep's horn or something, on top
Yeah,
of it.
yeah.
That's amazing. I never saw that.
I did.
Mm.
I saw that.
Donegal,
It was, so like a handle, like.
The spade we have around here,
Yeah,
literally.
the Dorn was coming out the same as the wing of the Slane.
Oh, right. I
And
don't. Yeah, that gives you an extra
Yeah.
sort
You
of sweep.
just cut 2 sods at a time.
Yeah.
And the man, Curtis Paul, would take them and throw them out.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's what you call it as well, a Durn, is it? Yeah.
Dorn, yeah.
This thing is all done in one movement around here. You just cut the thing and throw it either into the hollow bog, which
I
is the lower
did.
part,
I
or up
I
on the
did
bank.
it for a few
I was
years.
thinking
Yeah.
you did it, yeah. You'd have did it here. You'd have done it here.
Yeah.
But it was hard work. I mean, my claim to fame about turf cutting was that I had done it for a few years when I was young with my dad before I went to the UK. So that was maybe why I was able to, I could resonate with the whole concept when I was writing the song, So it's a kind of a solitary. You will get men. You get 2 or 3 men sometimes. If say that you were late in the season, you get 3 or 4 together and go cutting, try to get it done fast. But quite often you see a man in the bog on his own cutting away, So it is a kind of a solitary
experience, you know, and you're at one with nature, so to speak. So it's kind of, I was trying to get that in the.
Well, at least when you were on your own in the bog, you could sit down and rest now.
That's right.
The only place ever I could do that.
Do you show that in the video? No.
Well, I didn't do much of it, but I was a lot younger when I did, and I used to find, you know, I suppose after the winter and everything, you'd be a bit stiff.
Oh, the first day.
But once you got going, you find that you actually got fit by
Yeah, it was a good workout.
Yeah.
Before there was any gym.
You explained that actually in the video about stretching and all.
But do you go through in the video? Do you go through the whole thing? Kind of as a pair in the bog and then scuffing it?
Yeah.
All works.
And like I say, it's probably the first time that the whole thing has been presented in one package. You know, that right from the start, all the different processes, scrawn the bog, all the different problems you might run into with that, issues around drainage where the water might be, you'd have to work things in such a way the water would be getting away as opposed to coming back on top of you. All of those kind of things, and then of course the cutting itself. And there's a lot of technique around that, and a lot of knowledge that a person would need to have, because you could end up in trouble like if you didn't know what you were doing, so to speak. Same with any job. Nixie explains all of that very, very expertly, and it's quite interesting. It's well worth listening to. You know?
Yeah. And would you pile it out, or would you spread it as you were cutting it?
Pilot.
Yeah.
You spread some too, though, mixing in the hollow bog, yeah.
Well, kind of the slaying, but mostly.
Be easier to spread it below, and then
when I be putting that way, I like to slide one.
The lower bog.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of other. It's not just about the bog either. As we're talking through, with lots of stories, but you know, we're sitting down having the tea, so I put in some of that, telling stories from old. It's not just all about the bog either. Like it's all about different other things as well. But you know, talking about his grandfather, great grandfather, all that sort of the life they had, the life that has gone by,
and the link with the past.
Yeah.
I wonder when did they start cutting trough for the slaying? I wonder what century was that?
I don't know. I know they used to cut with the spade. And even in my time, they used to cut now and again with the spade.
My grandfather now, when he was born in 1880, like, and he always remember cutting with the slaying and all before him.
Yeah.
So it goes back a long time.
But what you were saying there about, you know, talking, the other things that that was part of the thing. You know, if you took it nowadays, if you got young fellas out doing that and they had a break, they'd be on the bloody phone. There wouldn't be.
I was filling top there last year with me 2 grandsons, and they had 2 friends filling. And my day when the trailer left, we'd sit down and have a crack. The 4 of them sat now like we are.
Not the head down and the thumbs going.
There's one thing. I would rather cut turf than fill it into a trailer. I hated filling it in.
That's the highlight.
I'll be honest with you boys, I'm not going to put them down on the young generation at all, because that's their culture. But to be honest with you, I'm well into the 60s myself, and if I got a break in the bog nowadays, I'd be on the flipping phone as well. I can guarantee you that. So we're not going to blame the young generation completely.
No, that's their culture now. That's what they.
Well, you're lucky you got coverage. Huh? They're lucky they got.
Yeah, if you had coverage, you'd be lucky with that. That's a fact. Yeah.
Well, just today I heard on a radio station they were on about that, and they're saying that now the young people are getting fed up with them.
Yeah,
you know, it's
gone full
circle. There was one thing before the phone came along, or you could sit down and nobody would bother you. You wouldn't be seen. But now, if you sit down, somebody will take a picture of you.
Yeah. That's the thing.
I know more.
But I suppose, you know, when you look at it from the other side, then
I mean, like you said, get the legs of Sean Harrington coming around with the camera.
Like it cuts both ways, because if we didn't have the technology, there was no way we could leave this message or this evidence behind to the people that are coming after us. So kind of we had to, you know, it works both ways really. The technology is great too, as long as it doesn't sort of don't get submerged under it, like, you know what I mean?
Take over. It's part of the heritage. It needs to be passed on.
Oh yeah. Well, it's
and I mean, coming down the line, I mean, we experienced it, but next generation they will not have experienced it.
Yeah. And I'd be wondering, like we say now, you'd wonder, like, this not being a ticketed event, like it's a free event, by the way. I don't know if we mentioned that enough for Mayo Day at 8 p.m.
Yeah,
8 p.m. this night week. But basically, you know, we don't know what numbers to expect or what sort of demographic either. But it'd be nice to think that a few young people would come in to actually, you know, visit this thing for the first time and see.
There's a music session afterwards.
Music afterwards, yeah. We'll be playing in the foyer hopefully afterwards, and we've got a good few musicians that are going to just sit down, and it'll be a nice informal trad session, a few songs, and you know, hope if people want to hang around, they can, and we won't detain them if they want to get home. It's that kind of thing. So it's nice and informal. So that's the way it's laid out anyway. So we'd like to think we get a few people in at least that would be interested in the topic, you know.
Yeah. And you've done all this off your own bat. You haven't got any outside
No.
influence at all. And it's totally yourselves that
No.
Yes.
And how did you get into video for filmmaking or whatever you call it?
Well, I wouldn't be next one what it's called either. But I suppose back in the day when the kids were young, I'd one of those small VHS camcorders at the time. You know, they came out after the big VHS one.
Yeah.
Then I got the small one, and I'd been messing around like because whereas now you can take out the phone straight away, but that's like, you know, if it's trying to push the phone again, that sort of crack.
Yeah.
But that today there was no phone. I don't think I made a phone in the house. But anyway, you'd have always on shared, and I'd be taking bits around the village or bits of matches and bits, and I liked it, but I wasn't into it in any way kind of just as a hobby, but not anyways professional or any even amateur. But I was doing bits, and I was getting into editing when it went digital. I got a bit of an editing suite. I just messed around, didn't know much about it, but lucky enough in ours in Scrory here, the Galway's Film Centre put on a course over one summer about filmmaking. And I joined it, about 6 of us in it, and I only joined it for the camera work. You know, I didn't know anything about, we'll say, went into cast and script writing until the end, you know, all that. And editing, of course, and lighting and sound. And that was that's how I learned kind of the little details of what I was doing here, even though I wouldn't have good equipment. But in the bog, there's always wind, we'll say. And to get the wind out of the microphone, you know, sound of the wind, that was the main problem I had.
Yeah.
And we got over that eventually. Like, as you look through, the first year's footage is not great, but I was improving all the time. And it was off the cuff. There was no script for this. I'd have the camera thrown in the van, and I'd see Mixie just about in the bog, and I'd nip over and what are you doing today? Just tell me what you're at.
A lot of the time you tell me what are you doing? I have to do again what I did yesterday.
Well, now you're on the same.
When you go home and look at it, like,
How did you take the camera when he first came out with the camera?
Well, I was looking at him. I said, I saw anything in the bog. I never saw a camera in it. I didn't think it was doing what he was going to do first with it. Like,
well, no, actually, you know, it was
and
nice.
then he said what he was going to do, and it was only for the family, and that was fine. But then they were looking at the house. Well, I think Sean was looking. So, you know, we want to see this. We want to see this. We're alive.
Used to it.
Yeah, we want to see this. We're alive. They said, you know.
Yeah.
I said, I don't care what you do with it.
As you were saying, there's a lot to be said for phones in one way. You can
Yeah.
but there's no thought going into like what you've done. You know, planned it out a bit. And I remember those cameras you're talking about way back. You had only so much film, and you had to think a little bit before you even the old photographs. You know, you took with a camera. You had only 36 shots and you thought a bit. Whereas now you're click, 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 and then you say,
you pick out the best one.
What did I take? Delete.
Then whatever was taken was taken.
Oh yeah.
Half the time the bog, I couldn't see what I was doing, you know, because of the light and different things, and just trying different things. It was only going to be for family use, so I wasn't, you know, I would learn them myself. And then as we were watching, someone said once in the house, Mixie, that you'll be great in the future, like you know, you'll be like a Leonardo da Vinci, but he's dead. Why not enjoy it when we're alive, you know, kind of thing. Put it out there and see what happens, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because we had guests a couple of weeks ago who, just like you, off their own bat, made a film, and that was about the Irish language and how it's changing and how it's dying out. The old dialects are dying out and saving them before they've gone. And I think that this ability to do it, that anybody can now make a film to preserve what is a dying art or something that is dying out, it's a fantastic opportunity that we have nowadays. What would people have done 100 years ago, if this technology had been about, how much more we would know about what we've lost in the near distant past.
Yeah, 'cause I was over there in the bog, we say last week, Mixie was cutting last week, just around the time. And I looked at the footage I had from 7 or 8 years ago, and the bog was like wide. You could bring down a tractor up and down twice, you know. And now it's gone so narrow, you couldn't put one top on it, just about. You know, you only get an ass cap on it.
Yeah.
But as well as that, you know, it's about the Irish language, because when I was watching it, yeah, someone say, would you, he talks fairly clearly, but my generation, talks like, you know, when we lost Irish language, it didn't go from talking great Irish to great English all of a go. Like, it went, my father and mother got arrested, I'd be talking a lot Irish words in English. And then I'd be using the S sound, I'd say start instead of start. And that's how Mixie talks now in our generation. The new generation talks, would say, grammar perfect English. But my generation, no. But I think we're the last line of the line that went from talking fully Irish to talking English.
Yeah, good point.
And that comes across in the video to Mixie's talking normally, like we talk to one another. So we'd be talking, we'd say, would say this kind of the Irishness of saying English words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas the next generation, our kids, grandkids, talk kind of perfect grammar English. My dialect might be Cork or Mayo, but the actual grammar, it'd be, good or perfect, whereas mine wouldn't be. I'd still talk like I'm talking like my mother did or my father did years ago.
Well, your mother and your father would have to use a lot of English words in the Irish language as well, because kind of everything that came into the Gaeltacht during their generation came in with English names.
Well, my father had no idea.
Yeah?
My father had no idea.
Oh, his English.
No, my mother had.
She had, yeah.
She had, my father had.
Yeah.
But that generation of Irish speakers, there were a lot of English words used in the Irish language. Now, they put different, maybe different spellings on them and different sounds on them.
When I was going to school, there was no V, I think, in English, and there was no V in English.
Right, I think.
No, there was
BH, yeah.
BH was
yes,
V,
and there was a bullshit or punch, and I got many the punch for not putting down the spooch over. There was other.
About the H, there's no H in the
no
Irish.
H,
About 60 years ago.
The H came in.
Now it's everywhere.
There was a shade where we call it ball. Spot, ball, C ball, B ball. That's when I was a youngster, but that changed maybe when I was in the 5th or 6th class and I went to shaving. Then I went to the H after that.
We had the worst of both worlds because we learned the original stuff with the old fashioned script, which was lovely. And then whenever it was mid-60s or something, whatever came along, all of a sudden we had to start again effectively because it was the English type writing, plus the H was coming in everywhere, and the punch was gone over the first consonant, as we say. But again, that was an interesting one.
Yeah, against that, this woman in Ireland, she was she had a pub. This pub opened up. It was closed for years, and suddenly it opened, and we all kind of wondered where did she come out of? And she had been the matron in charge of the military hospital in London. The what do you call it, Paul? Anyway,
yes.
She came home. She opened the pub, and myself and this chap went in, and we were talking to her. And
Chelsea Hospital?
No, but it was Queen's Own, Alexander's. But she told us she had been the matron in this hospital, and we said, "Well, that's strange. A woman from Ireland ended up in charge of this." Oh, she said, "No," she said, "the woman I took over from was from Ireland, and the woman that's taken over from me is from Ireland." Nice. But another thing came up with the language, speaking English, that the Iron Islanders spoke the best English going. And the reason given for it was because Irish was their first language. They only spoke Irish. They learned English, and they learned it properly.
That's true of. I found this in England, that people who'd come from an Irish-speaking community and only started speaking English when they, for instance, moved to London, had no accent. So there was no, as you say, they were almost speaking Queen's English. Whereas if you learnt your English from the TV, or you learnt English at school and you weren't
From
from
a
an Irish
Donegal,
school.
man, like this fella here.
If you grew up in one of the regions, like there's an awful
Johnny
difference
Goldman without a
between
Donegal
Newcastle
accent.
and Cornwall. You know, there's a big difference between those two dialects, isn't there? Like it's mad. You know, it's like a different language.
It is.
But just if I could just mention something there, like about this, the whole idea of this turf cutting and that, when Aidan put up that, we'll say that 30-second clip or whatever it was, of just cutting the sods and throwing them out, and it was one of those satisfying video type things that people just want to watch because it looks so good and it's so easy to watch. But anyway, there were a few comments made about, we'll say, the feasibility of you know, the argument about, we'll say, fossil fuels and renewable energy. So as far as this film is concerned, like, we're not taking a side on that at all. We're not kind of promoting the turf cutting, nor are we saying that we're not finding fault with it. So in other words, it's just it's a snapshot.
You're promoting a way of life.
Yeah, it's a snapshot. Exactly.
That is
A way of life
back
that's
into
almost gone.
history.
Yeah. So we're not like, just in case anybody thinks that there's anything contentious about this or that there's anything political about it. It's not. It wasn't one of them at all, you know. And we kind of estimated this year. We were trying to figure out, and we could name 3 men that are cutting turf that we know of this year in Erris, Mixie here being one of them. There's 2 more. There's a man down in Foxpoint and a man up my part of the world up near Gisala. And as far as we know now, probably someone listening to this show will say, oh, there's such and such a one is cutting as well. But that's all we could identify this year. And I can remember, and these men can as well, when you'd see men heading for the bog with the 2 spades, the turf spade and the ordinary spade, go scrawling first and maybe cut a bit, and tied to the bar of the bike. And that was the norm, you know. And that was when I was a kid. I'd remember that, and that is literally all gone. Like, you know, so
It's gone, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, a friend of mine there, he would have been one of the last as well, and he just died there some time ago. Tom came from Dexod. Tom used to cut. You'd see him heading
But
off.
it's nice, Sean. It's nice to have it identified so it can be passed on to the next generation.
that's an interesting one about the dialect we have around here as well, because I didn't think of that one, Aidan. So fair play to you. That's a kind of a bonus, if you like, because when people, as you said, the young generation now, when they're looking back at us or listen to us here, this recording today, and listen to our accents, it will be, I'd say, markedly different to the way people will be speaking around here 50 years' time, I would have thought.
Well, maybe not in the kind of dialect, but like as we said, the Queen's English.
Putting in the SH and the stop and the start and all that. And I wouldn't swap that for anything, because that's what we do.
I think the dialects will probably come more together as we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, the three main
Well,
dialects.
yeah, outside. I mean, what Sean said, I can see. I worked with people from Dublin, you know, 60 years ago, nearly, and like there was a distinctive Dublin accent.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah.
Now, not all still there, but some of them are more Americanized and from watching television and whatever, and you get this. It's creeping in.
Yeah. Well, when I went to England in the 70s, lads, I literally had to modify my accent because nobody knew what I was on about. That's no exaggeration. I literally had to stop and think, how do I pronounce what I'm going to say next? And I'm not joking. Because the first place that I went to live first and foremost was in Kent. And Kent is down the south coast, Folkestone, where the Channel Tunnel is now. And it's kind of a posh, a lot of middle class areas in it at the time, you know. And you'd be talking to these people and they don't have a clue what you're on about, you know. You really literally have to modify what you're saying.
I was different. When I left Ireland to go, I went to England for a while and I went different places, but I was nearly totally Irish speaking. I learned my English outside of Donegal. So
so your English was probably clearer and well presented.
It got a few laughs here and there.
Well, what you're saying there, I can picture that too, because I have a son who works in Germany now, and he's an engineering business which I was in, and occasionally he'll be on to me and he'll ring me up, maybe a problem, and he's halfway through explaining something and he'll stop, and I say, well, is the line? No, he says, I'm thinking in German. He has to translate it in his head. But I know the German name for it, I can't think.
That'll happen with the language you use daily. It'll happen. But he still knows in English what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah. But he just has to think. He has to stop, and it doesn't flow out of him like it.
I still speak in English, and I try to find an English word for the Irish word that's coming into my head, and the other way around as well.
What about the feckin' yoke?
What's your fucking language, you?
The thing I've noticed now, and everybody here would know about this, I presume, like, particularly, I think, in Connemara, maybe no, I might be offending the Connemara people here, but probably not. But they have this great tendency that if they want to say something, they'll be speaking away in Irish to you, and not alone will they throw in an English word, they'll throw in an English phrase, and they'll keep going in English. Next thing they're back in Irish again. It's complete ease. It's a means of communication first and foremost.
It just
right?
So flows seamlessly.
What they'll do is, like, there's any amount of examples of it. You know, we were down there one, they were looking for the records, and he said, "Oh, Tasha Heath and Shin, like Jeru Woha, chop jazz whitewash all try." You know.
Oh, that was standard. That was standard in the Gaeltacht. We always said chop whitewash alche.
Yeah.
Ash alche made it Gaelic.
But that's and I you know, I have a lot of people, a lot of friends in Connemara that I speak to, and they'll be on the phone, you'll be talking about something, and all of a sudden you realise that they've kind of moved to English and didn't even realise it had happened, like, because it's kind of such a flowing, kind of fluent thing, and then they're back in Irish again, and they don't even think twice about it, like, they just use
no, it's just
whatever comes into their head. So it's the right way.
Because some people you often heard the one kind about the Connemara man that was cycling home from Galway, where she had a boat and a bicycle, I guess a hoot case at a harrier.
Yeah.
That's true, I suppose. Mixie, you were the same. Like when we were going to school, because everything was through English, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, you'd be making up your sums kind of in your head, you
know.
You'd be making it up in your head in Irish, and then you'd see.
Oh yeah, you would. Yeah.
We all did that. Yeah.
But I come back to in Carricktraig, the Gaeltacht there, and he speaks perfect English. My brother-in-law, he speaks perfect English, you know. And I often wonder now, when you mentioned earlier on about Gaeltacht people speaking, I mean, perfect English, you know, way better than I could ever could, you know. And that's interesting, you know, that Irish should be his first language, and he'll be learning English then later on, you know.
Yeah, well, I worked with some English people too, and they used to say to me, "Geez, for an Irishman, you're speaking very good English," you know.
Yeah.
And I think West Mayo, well, any Gaeltacht area, really, I suppose.
Unless you end up in Kent like me and nobody knows what you're saying.
That's where you were, Kent.
Kent first, and then we moved up to the Midlands. I went up to Northampton then, and there was an absolute, you know, there was a massive Irish community there at the time, and it was a different ball game, because you kind of, not that we stuck to the community, the Irish community alone, but, you know, the English people that were around the town seemed to be so used to our accent that we had far better means of.
It's such a big Irish community that Northampton's got its undone store.
That has, that's right. But that has kind of dwindled again now, Paul, because when I was there was 2 Irish centres in it. One in the centre of the town, another one out in the sort of north side where we live. But both of them are gone now, and it's been taken over by different other groupings. We won't bother going down that road. But it's a different story now. I was never back, to be quite honest with you, but people who lived there, I lived there for over 20 years, and people who were there in my time say it's a changed place, you know. But, you know, we're not.
I think there's been an assimilation.
Back with the Geordies.
I worked with them, and the Lord save us. When them men to be together, you forget about it.
Oh, forget it.
Talk about Northampton. They're organising a cycle from Northampton to Belmullet next August.
All right.
Yeah. Now, how they're going to get across the Irish Sea, I don't know.
What's it for?
7 days, 6 or 7 days, I think. Casey, I saw this somewhere lately. It's 6 days.
I saw
3 days.
Yeah.
What's the charity, or do you know at the moment?
I do.
I don't know at the moment.
It's
going to take 6 days.
6 days.
6 days.
Fair day to them, yeah.
But you're saying about the English variety of accents. I was sitting in a pub in London once with a fella from Killybegs and a fella from out in Connemara, and they couldn't understand a word of what each other was saying. But I was so used to hearing Irish accents that I could understand what both of them were saying. And I was, what did he say? And I would just repeat the word for word. And they tried to speak in Irish, and their Irish was even worse between each other, so they just gave up.
But just going back to that thing about putting English in the place of Irish words, I remember Bob, but it's Kirkle they call it. I spent a lot of time down in Headford, you know, and we were there actually the other morning, Thursday morning. And what day is today? I'm forgetting. 2 days ago. Anyway, this guy was telling us we're talking about exactly what we were on about there now. And he said that God help us, somebody died suddenly, you know. And the man who was describing what happened, he said, "Wool shlake, hit she as a hassle, agus wash she straight away."
That's
Talk
a good Irish
Yeah.
saying. Yeah.
Wool shlake, you know, we have
Slack,
around here,
yeah.
slack, when something
Yeah.
is weak or
Yeah, yeah.
loose or whatever, you know, wool shlake hit him, he fell out of his standing and he died straight away. That was a fairly concise description of what happened.
What was? Yeah.
Well, Mixie still couldn't turf anyway. I don't know.
Well,
finish this year.
keep at it, Mixie, as long as you can.
Yeah. I suppose I'll give it up when it gives me up. I think that's the way it is.
That's the way to go, because you say, "Oh, I'll never do it again." But I know lots of people like that.
Yeah, I did.
Even
never do that again.
I'm inclined to be that way myself. You know,
It's the only thing
I've retired more
It's
times.
easier to
that's
get a
his
hopper nowadays.
Oh, my God, especially
About that hopper, the Lord said,
what I have left is as hard as that.
we won't go down that road about the hopper and
No.
whatever. But anyway, but look, I'll tell
We'll
you,
leave
it's,
it to the next generation.
yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it's a
Well,
nice
don't
thing.
want it.
It's a nice thing to leave behind us, you know, that people know exactly what this was about. And, you know, it's not easy work and nobody's trying to pretend it is, like, so at least people will know that this was the way it was done. So
It's a record, a good
It's a
record.
record, an absolute record.
There was none that work easy. Picking potatoes and
Yeah.
it was all hard physical work.
it was, so,
But you didn't think it was hard because everybody did it.
yeah.
It was a norm.
You didn't
No,
think
yeah,
it was
yeah,
normal.
it was the
Yeah.
norm, yeah,
So
yeah.
it didn't,
I remember as a kid in Blacksod, you know, and the fishing there, and both fishing lobsters, and there'd be
we put
5,
it on
6, 7 men on each boat. You know? And now when you look back, you say, but there was no haulers, there was
No,
nothing.
done by hand,
Everything was done by hand. And I was on holidays down in the Azores maybe 10 years ago, and I saw the same thing. No, there was boats there, and maybe 12 or 13 on them,
Yeah.
and
No haulers.
everything done by hand. But none of them were killed, but none of them at the same time.
They were all doing a bit.
They're all doing
Yeah,
this,
and-
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, there was more help around in those days.
Yeah.
People joined in,
absolutely.
Yeah.
and they didn't wait to be paid for it or asked to be paid for it. They
No.
just joined in. The Mehel system.
Mehel, yeah.
Yeah.
People were talking and knew what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go to those places now, you go on your own.
Well, you do it and you don't nowadays.
You don't
Yeah.
from being out with
I
them talking
even
about
managed to get the word mehel into the song.
Did you?
And the Gower Jorok as
You
well.
want to sing it to us?
Oh,
Sing
you
it
know,
for us.
Oh, we'll wait until the third way.
It's not actually coming out until we're going to have it up on Spotify and them too. So it's going to be launched on Mayo Day. But we might get a chance to maybe get it up online or something in between time. But no, I was going to say the Gower Jorok is mentioned as well, and that's the snipe. And the snipe was the snipe was a regular visitor. I don't know, do you hear him anymore at all, Mixie?
Yeah, there was one of the days you were out there.
All right. Yeah. Well, I haven't heard that fella for years and the reason they call him
Say it again, Gower.
the Gower Jorok.
Jorok.
And the idea was Jorok meaning like sorrowful or crying. And
Crying, yeah.
he sounds like a goat crying for all the
yeah.
world. That's the name they have on the snipe.
The crying goat.
It's the noise he makes with his wings when he's flying past. It's not his voice, it's his actual wings that makes this kind of mournful kind of sound. And he was a very regular occurrence when we were in the bog back in the years. But I haven't heard much. You reckon he's still around, Mixie? Yeah.
Yeah. But not much. I seen the greybacks killing them there in the time of the snow. 2010 was it?
Yeah.
I didn't think they used. I seen 3 or 4 of them ambushing them. And
they're everything. The greybacks are killing everything.
A lot of these birds are getting a bit rare now too.
They're getting killed by the greyback has no predator like.
Yeah.
Or the populations are moving to, you know, they're coming up gannets now. We're up here, which before they used to come up past Kerry. You know,
Right.
now they're right up here. They're nesting even here on Blackrock, right out.
Yeah.
And puffins are in there too, which they didn't.
They wouldn't have been around up
No,
recently enough, I'd say.
no. But maybe since the lightkeepers left, I don't know. But they have come back. But going back to your bog, and you're saying the story that you stop for the tea and you'd have the crack, and you know you'd be discussing the fella down the road who was pissed last night or fell off the bike or whatever, and that was there was.
When I went there to my bog first, it was 97, but before that I would be at my uncle and that in the mid or late 70s. Like, you could hear 10 different men coughing. You'd be that close, you know. The bog would just open and we'd make a fire, and then you see that the whole posse would land. The man would land around the fire, right? You know?
Sounds seem to travel better in those days.
That's true enough, yeah.
I suppose because you're out there on your own, you do see an awful lot more of nature.
Yeah.
Than the average person would, even, you know.
I was telling John there, like, and I noticed it when I went to the bog first, you'd hear birds singing, and there'd be what we call the crower, you know, the horsefly.
Crower, yeah.
They're gone. There's no birds singing. I think we had one lark. But if you wish to see your own house now, you would hear no birds singing. I'd be surprised if you would.
Yeah, it's amazing. Birds have dwindled.
You won't take notice until you're told.
Yeah, I know.
Then you stand out and you listen. But I noticed that in the bog, the flies and all that were gone. And even out to the house, there should be birds singing.
I'm lucky where I am there because I'm only about 200 yards from the shore, and in the middle of summer, you'd hear these unearthly sounds coming up from, when it's quiet, and all kinds of different, like the curlew is an awful strange noise, but there's all kinds of different birds, and they're all shouting and crying, like as it's getting dark at night, it's an amazing sound, but they're still around, they're seabirds, but the inland birds now are different, like, those birds are kind of migratory.
The midges in the bog nowadays.
Oh, they're there, but they're there and gone.
Funny enough,
the one thing that should be with the bog is
same as me, Mixie. Same as me and my father, Lord of mercy, and I'd be praying they'd come because it's the only way I get out of the bog. And time to get away.
You wouldn't get my father the bog, or if you would smoke a pipe with like Kodak, but a big cloud of smoke, you wouldn't fly with them.
I remember one day I was in the bog, I was in Glencastle, and I took off my Gansey because it was a warm day, and I left it on the bonnet of the car, and went in to, I think it was footing a while, spreading or something like that, but the midges came, and I had to run. And grabbed the Gansey and brought it into the car. And next thing, the bloody car was
Oh, they're of course the Lord save us.
They're still around all right.
I was often thinking, we're around this part of the world at about 5,000 years or whatever since Cage of Fields, and we never developed any kind of immunity to them flipping midges. How was that? Wouldn't you think we'd have got used to them by now?
Well, some people, there's a lot of people that don't seem to affect. I don't know.
They used to be, are they?
They're not.
No, they're getting scarce
compared to the world.
Yeah.
But a lot of things that have changed in our time. One thing that always strikes me is mushrooms. When I was a kid, you could go into any field and
pick the mushrooms. Yeah.
Now, the only place to get mushrooms is in a ski, and it has to be the fertilizer that was put on the land.
But if you look now, you'll find it hard to find worms.
Yeah,
even though you won't notice it now until you're told about it.
Yeah.
Because they were shifting the bank down there a couple of years ago. They were shifting a bit of a fence making the car park down there at the pool, and the fella came looking for worms for fishing. He can get one.
Yeah.
The machine there dug for hours.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And that's when I noticed myself. Where are the worms gone?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I mean.
Yeah, you notice it now more. So
you notice it now more. Well, you realise it now more. Yeah.
And yet there's some other species. I think there's a tiny worm going now. He's only about an inch, the most. And to get into the houses, and I thought it was under my house.
Black.
Yes.
Climb the wall. Climb up the wall.
And
he climb up anywhere, and he come down the conduit into their plug.
Yeah.
Again.
And they came to me for 1 year, and they disappeared.
Yeah.
And I put lime and I put everything in this, and I was well to have put water.
Yeah, they came into my house a couple of years and they're gone again. I haven't seen them with you.
The birds won't eat them.
No.
You could knock them down, and I did. And yet he's a sound he hits, and he was gone again.
Dirty looking.
Dirty, yeah. They come up the shores in the shower and everything.
But they would hear.
Whatever they were, but they seem to have gone again from my place. Anyway, I've seen them for a while now.
They disappear for a while, but they're back out there. I saw a few in my house the other day. But I thought when I saw them first, that's only my house. What the hell? But then everybody was
the whole family, right?
How they get in? That's another mystery. How they get into the house, I don't know.
Or the minute they go up the wall and they go into the fascia anyway.
Yeah.
And they go in where you have food or anything like. If you're completely sealed.
Tiny.
I never saw a worse worm in my life.
But that's a long way from turf. But
I'm glad to know that I wasn't the only one that had it.
No. You're at your own there.
It's a wide-ranging conversation.
So we can see how the stories came into the film.
Yeah, that's a story. I couldn't put them all
so you said let loose.
Strange enough, that's an interesting one, Paul. We didn't actually. I don't think we referenced the midges at all, did we?
No.
Funny enough. I wouldn't be
there.
Cheer Mixie when they didn't come on yet.
I wouldn't be there.
I can assure you, there's no midge.
He wouldn't be there. I wouldn't be there.
I wouldn't be there. Long enough on them.
They were very severe.
Yeah.
Gordon.
I remember when I was young, going to the heat. I wouldn't cut to keep himself warm, kind of thing. So I wasn't a fan of the bog. But
But my father got arrested, wouldn't bother him. He'd have a pipe, you see,
Yeah.
it was like the
Yeah.
cold tower to smoke,
yeah.
you see the one.
Smoke to keep them away, all right.
Yeah.
I'd say some of these repellents probably work nowadays, but maybe not. Some people.
But
I'd
they do
say
for
do it with
shot,
skin.
but for
Do
not
it with your
shot,
skin
right.
and whatever kind of stuff you're.
Well, I think we all
Release.
used to start the fire in the bog to keep them away.
Yeah. Oh, they were an absolute. They were a curse.
They're not as bad as they were. They're not as bad the last 2 or 3 years at all.
They don't seem to be, no.
Bangor used to be the place for them.
Bangor was an awful place for them.
They'd be there in January.
Where's your bog next?
Ogden Castle.
Castle, oh, yeah.
Had you a bog in Castle?
I have.
Have you?
I haven't used it in years.
It's in the bottom road, is it?
Beside Matty Geraghty's there, yeah.
Oh, I know what it is now, yeah.
Yeah.
Just on the on the right hand side.
On the right hand side, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Oh, if you want to use it, use it.
I don't know anything left in it.
Maybe not.
Somebody already beat him to it.
I don't know if there's anything left in it now.
Maybe not.
I don't think I know. I've seen this.
when I was looking back, when I record over a few years, and the first year it was, I don't know, 17 or 16, whatever it was. It was great growth that year. Like the bog was full of life. There was cottonwood, the hollow bog. It was full of life. Like. And then the next year I record a bit. I just go over when he was there because, whatever. And it was dull as hell, So I'd try and blend all together. But the life that's in the hollow bog, when Mixie Scone, like you all did, put the straw down the hollow bog in. So that's, you're saving the bog. The life is still in the bog. The middle part is cut away, but the actual top part is still on the go.
Right,
so
there's
still life in the bog.
But now that you mention it, the cottonwoods are gone as well.
Yeah, the one the first year, I did footage of it, and
It's funny, there's been wrestling
Blue
matches with it.
Snacked.
in Irish.
Did you cut out there with the sling, Eddie?
I did, yeah.
Did you?
I did, yeah.
Had you the Donegal type or the one from?
I used the local one.
I tell you what, you don't want to use the one that's at Barnet.
I see, if I was using the Donegal sling, I'd have to have another man with me.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny that
We'll have to have a look at that joke sometime. I've never seen one of them.
I don't think it's. I
I
don't
did
the
it.
video, but I remember you telling me about that you worked in Donegal and
I think it was a sheep's horn he had on top of the sling.
Where?
In Donegal, he had a sheep's horn.
Yeah.
And, that's what he had on top of the.
Oh, yeah.
That was the horizontal.
Yeah.
But then they used cut trees. They used cut the tree to make the handle well and that have that shape. I see.
But then up the Midlands, they could have an awful height of a bank, and there'd be a man, it'd be twice the size, and you'd have a load of men then on stages. That was sort of a scaffold. Did you ever see that crack? I saw that online. So there'd be men at different stages, and them throwing the saw down, and wheelbarrows at them. These timber yokes that they fill it with the saw that was just cut. They bring it away and they probably spread it out somewhere then.
Take it away in the wheelbarrow.
Yeah. Completely different system to us altogether.
Completely different.
It would be awful deep compared to ours.
Oh, yeah.
20, 30 foot, not how I was only about 6 or 8 foot.
One is called blanket bog, and there's a distinction between the two, but I don't know which is which, to be honest.
Well, the blanket bog is the one that's not untouched. I don't want it touched.
Yeah. That must be the deep one, is
There's
it?
not a lot of it left now, but there's bits in Roscommon and
Is that the deep bog, Mixie? It
it
is.
would be deep bog, yeah.
Yeah. Well, the
Lots of
blanket
bog
bog is
roads
what
are
grew
touched,
over. I mean, it would be a blanket bog in Cage, wouldn't it?
Probably
Probably
would be.
because they have to go down a long way to find the walls and that.
It
Yeah.
grew over the land as it was.
Yeah, that's probably blanket, yeah.
Yeah, on the way to Rossport, like the fair belt of bog there. That
It's,
hasn't been
yeah,
touched
unbelievable.
either,
Untouched, yeah. Untouched.
Yeah. I suppose it was the low hanging fruit that was cut first, kind of thing, near the house.
Yeah, nearest the house, nearest the village, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be because they're still the biggest bogs in the world now are huge, massive bogs, and in Siberia, but they're away from anywhere, so there's no one going.
And do they bother with it at all?
must
I
be
think
very
they-
cold
I think
there.
there's
They did in areas, in certain areas,
I
but
think there's a certain tradition of peat in different parts. I think
But,
Poland have a bit of it. I think Poland have a bit
Poland
of
fair
peat.
bit, yeah.
it's so remote in Siberia that it's just left there.
Well, I mean, it was in England as well. The Norfolk Broads, which is
Yeah.
an area which is renowned now as all water.
Yeah.
That was the reason that all those canals are there is because it was cut out turf.
Stop, you
And
see
it
it?
actually, they cut to below sea level and the water just came up.
And was it for the same reason, Paul? Was
Yes,
simply
it was for fuel.
But they didn't build with it like there was a thing around here called the sod house that they used to make back in the famine.
There possibly was as well. Yes, I mean,
yeah.
But I didn't know about that now, that there was any tradition anywhere in England. Like, I thought it was just us. God help us back here. No, apparently it's widespread, because I only found out lately that Poland has a big tradition of it. I didn't know that until recently, you know.
and in the United States as well.
In
America,
yeah,
in North America, they did it.
Today.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
huge.
Oh.
Yeah, and they used the.
That's
the
an eye opener for me, because I just assumed it was something that was pretty much, we'd say, specific to Ireland, because of the fact that we're sort of a peat, an island made out of peat sort of thing, you know. But no, apparently not.
Yes, it's a worldwide.
Mm.
You use what you've got.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah,
That's right.
I suppose so.
Oh yeah, it's well, sure, we're an island made out of so many pieces. Even the Ayres Peninsula, half the southern half is
Is America.
No, the northern
Not
half
half America.
is just different rock totally. It came from
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
from Greenland's direction, and the other bit came up from the Azores.
Yeah, but there was bog on the southern part as well, wasn't there? There was bog at one time.
Oh, there was, yeah, there was, well, very skin. It was like Tory Island, the same as the straws. They used to cut them at home.
Which there's no real sort of, we say,
No,
bog back
no,
in the peninsula at all.
no.
Because
In some places you could dig under the sand and find bog.
You came back in Cairn there. They said.
Yeah.
To go
Over
back
the airstrip,
to
we
Cross
see now.
Beach there after a storm, and you can see.
Oh, you can.
You can see it goes right out to Innisglora.
Big bank of peat, yeah.
Big bank of peat going out there, and you get big lumps of it washed in
You will at the time,
after a
yeah.
gale there. Yeah, so there is peat, but it's down, it's under the sand.
There's a very famous picture around here, and we've seen it in a lot of different places, of men coming across on the Corrach from the peninsula to Do York, which is up near where I live, and there'd be a man would have turf cut there, and they'd load the Corrach and bring it across.
That's right.
Now,
Well,
was that
the sailing boats used to bring it to Inniskeith from over there, yeah. And
My father got us from
Ballycroy.
Ballycroy to Homa, probably.
Yeah,
and New York.
over to Inniskeith.
Out to Castle there, no, a bit further.
So you
The
just
two
went
glass,
going
you
in from
know,
Yeah.
he said even the one out there.
Was there any bog in the ski?
No,
No,
not really, no.
So
And funny
that-
enough, there was a bit on Devlin.
Oh, was there? Yeah.
Yeah.
And Berna. Berna.
Berna,
There was.
Yeah.
I know there was when they had the exhibition of old photographs downstairs, there was a picture of sailing boats being loaded up with turf to take across to the islands
Oh, yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
it was such a scarcity over there.
Yeah.
That was hard work. To cut that and save it and then put on a boat and then
But
haul it.
that was done for a lot of the islands along the
Yeah,
west
it was.
coast.
Aaron,
That
all
was-
the
that was
Trustman
tough,
Aaron
yeah.
came from Connemara, and
That was
and
tough
stayed in
going,
Hooper.
and then you had to take it off again
Yeah.
at the pier and
Mm.
bring it.
There was an awful lot of handling involved.
So they must take months to get supply because I think they used to stay a few days. We have my father saying that they'd go out maybe stay 2 or 3 days out there in Castle. Down
Mm.
between the rivers is now
Yeah.
down there. They used to cut there and then.
When you think of it from you cutting that sod to you putting it in the fire, how
That's
many
on the
times has it been
That's on
handled?
the video as well.
Yeah.
That's funny. That comes across because they know that, like the ways that the many times you're on about, that in the bog, then go to the shore or to cross the strand, and he mentions all that when he was young.
We used that time because my father wanted the horse in the bog. If he sank it, he wasn't used to bog. He'd probably break his leg.
Yeah,
So
sure,
the
but
ass and cart first and put it down, put it was solid. and
sure, if you go back a while in all parts of Ireland, there was one time it was the ass and the parrot.
Oh, it was.
They brought the turf home, two creels on the donkey.
The 2 creels.
Yeah.
What were they hung off?
There was a saddle type thing on the back of the back. Of the
What were they
donkey.
called?
Oh, Airka, was it?
No, Scorrogs.
Scorrogs.
Did you ever hear that before? Did they?
I had a Scorrog.
Yeah,
before,
be hung on
but
that.
I related Scorrog to the stomach.
One, that would be one around. I don't know why they call it that.
Yeah.
That's what I heard on them when I was,
Mm-hmm.
and that stuck in my mind. I don't know why.
But I like the idea of those panniers on it, and you fill them at the top, and then you can take the bottom out. So
Yeah.
there's only one lot of work.
Oh, that's all. Yeah.
Somebody thought about that and
But,
thought, well, I'm not going to
actually,
empty this
I
again.
think we may have had another word for it, but
Maybe.
but I can't think of it now.
Yeah, that could be so. No, I wouldn't.
Those
I
are
would.
just-
I would actually. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Because there was another word now, you didn't pick it up. I don't know if I've included in the thing or not, but when you were lighting the fire in the bog, you could have a video on that on its own. But anyway, you mentioned the couche, I think it was. You were going in and getting the.
Well, the course would be like, it'd be like, the side of a bog. No, you wouldn't be familiar. It'd crack. A bog will crack, in.
Yeah.
And if you left it there for 4 or 5 years, the crack would be bigger. If you weren't cutting it, we'll say.
Yeah.
We call that couche.
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 But
That's what we was called.
Yeah,
But we was putting timber into the couche the year before, so to be dry, say for lighting the fire the following year.
Oh, yeah.
Put a bit in the couche. But you might have been for work
No,
for
no,
two.
we didn't
That's
have
what we was called, the couche.
That just reminded me, words like that, because my mother God, I should be saying words in the middle of a sentence, and word that I'd say now, maybe even at work, that people would understand to be local, you kind of, well, you're known chuck or
Own shower, we know what an own shower has.
There's another one there then for, if you're, it's like if
No
you're
one
in
should have
bad
a
humor,
picture.
but not in bad humor, kind of, you're crunching up. And people will say, we're working with, I didn't hear that word.
Yeah.
In here to be, they're all crunching up today.
Exactly.
And it's kind of, it's a different,
And Cantaloupe could be
it's a different kind of description. You can't describe it in English directly, it's kind of like you're just kind of in bed.
Well, all in all, it seems that it's a very interesting.
That's an interesting concept.
And the whole thing is going to be well worth time. Certainly going to be here for it to see it. And I'd advise anyone that has any interest at all in the area and the old customs to come along and see the thing on Saturday night at 8 o'clock.
Well, it should be very interesting for the youngsters as well, because they haven't experienced actual cutting in the bog, really. A lot of them.
Oh no, they wouldn't have,
No.
or even see it. A lot of them even see it.
But I just say, guys, before we finish up, anyone outside the jurisdiction that might be interested in this, people that might have, say, heritage centres or maybe turf cutting groups or whatever, we'd be interested in sort of bringing the thing around to various groups who might be interested in seeing it, So obviously people can get in touch with the station, presumably, if they want to on that one.
Yeah, but there
I
are
would say
different
so.
places
So
where it could be
we've
shown.
actually got a few sort of, we'll say, sort of people that have kind of, put out a few feelers and said, would you be interested in maybe showing it in our place? I don't want to say yet because we haven't anything tied together, but there are certainly a few groupings I'd say that'd be interested in.
Solace in Auckland should be interested.
Is that?
Solace in Auckland.
Solace, yeah, I'd safely say.
Anywhere there's kind of projector kind of thing, really.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's suited for.
Yeah, so,
Both the,
if there's anybody else in
quality and everything else.
in the Darnley or
And at all
outside,
expenses paid, trip to New York wouldn't go amiss.
Well,
We might be able to fit it in.
Will
I'll be down in Ireland.
Will you bring us what you? I'll carry the camera.
But that's it, lads. We seem to be running out of time again. We're up
Thanks so
against
much,
it.
guys. Thanks for bringing us in, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to.
It's a pleasure having you in, and
very interesting chat.
And of course, I would like Mixie for doing the work and Sean for coming on board with the music, because
there's no need to thank me because I was going to do it anyway. I was doing it. Nothing changed.
don't say that. You never get paid.
You're as well to thank the man that made the film as well.
Especially Aidan, because it was his brainchild from the start, and it's I think it's something that's going to be there.
Wherever he got the brains, I don't know. Where do you think?
It's going to be there for posterity anyway. And people can always watch it in 100 years' time, and they'll know what we were up to, essentially, in the middle of 2025.
It's been very interesting talking to you.
Thanks, guys. And we appreciate
On
your
that
time.
note, we're out of time, so we'll talk to you all again next week, hopefully.
For all those out there who've been listening, thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And this is Alternative Facts signing off for another week here on Eris FM.
Alternative facts to that, but the point remains
Alternative
that
facts? Alternative facts, 4 of the 5 facts he uttered. Look, alternative facts are not facts. They're falsehoods.
alternative facts.
Any information that turned out to be so false and fake, out. I think it's a disgrace. And that's something Nazi Germany would have done and did do.
Alternative facts